Over the next few weeks, you are going to learn about sequences. You've seen sequences throughout your life where there's just numbers and you can pick what the next number will be based off of the pattern. So arithmetic sequence is when you add or subtract the same number to get to your next term, and you'll see more examples at the bottom. Geometric is when you multiply to get the next term, and neither is you see a pattern, but you can't add or subtract the same number every time or multiply the same number every time. So an example is the Fibonacci sequence, where it's 1, 1, 2, 1 plus 2 is 3, 2 plus 3 is 5, 3 plus 5 is 8. You see a pattern occurring, but we're not adding the same number every time. We're not multiplying the same number every time. So we're going to look at the bottom real quick, do a few examples. Determine whether the sequence is arithmetic or geometric, and we're just going to identify the pattern and see what the next term in the sequence would be. So we have 2, 8, 32, 128, 5, 12. I notice I multiply by 4 every time to get to the next term. So that's geometric. And then 512 times 4 is 2,480. That would be our next term. If I look at number 3, negative 35 to negative 32, negative 29, negative 26, negative 23, you probably notice you add 3 every time to get to the next term, which makes it arithmetic. And my next term would just be negative 20 because I'd add 3 on to get to there. Let's do one more. Right here you notice 3 to negative 9, 27, negative 81, 243. You multiply by negative 3 every time. So that's geometric. And your next term would be negative 729. In the rest of this video, we're just going to focus on arithmetic sequences. So know this formula, write it down exactly as you see it. AN equals A1 plus N minus 1 times D. It's going to help you because we're not going to just ask to find the next term. They're going to ask you to find the 85th term, the 72nd term, and you're not going to want to sit there and count until you hit that term. So there's a formula. AN is the term you're looking for. A1 is your first term. N is the term they're or the number. So if they say what's the 8th term, N is 8, and D is your common difference. So that was what we could tell they're adding or subtracting every time. Here's your first problem. Find the 7th term of the sequence 2, 5, 8, 11. Again, you can keep counting. So this is my first term, this is my second, my third, my fourth. So if I move it over just a little bit, 1, 2, 3, 4. My 5th term would be, I notice I add 3 every time, 14. My 6th term would be 17, and my 7th term would be 20. So I technically already know my 7th term is 20, but again, let's just use the formula to see it. So I'm going to rewrite the formula right here for a second. I'm looking for the 7th term. I just replace that N with 7, and that just means 7th term. You don't have to do any math with that guy. A1 is your first term. My first term here was 2, plus N was 7, minus 1 times my difference, and we notice we added 3 every time to get to the next term, so I'm multiplying by 3. So when they sit next to each other like this in parentheses, that means multiplication. Don't add 3 on, just multiply by 3. Order of operations, clean up the parentheses. Multiplication comes next. 6 times 3 is 18. 2 plus 18 is 20, and that's what we got. So I'm just going to fill in over here. A1 was 2, N was 7, D was 3, and the term we were looking for was 20. Find the 10th term of the sequence, 25, 17, 9, 1. My formula, I'm just going to write it down here again. You have it at the top of your paper because you wrote it down. 25, 17, 9, 1. I notice I subtract 8 every time, so my common difference is negative 8. My first term there is 25. They're looking for the 10th term, so we're technically looking for a 10 there. Alright, let's start replacing stuff. A1 is 25, plus my n is 10, minus 1, times a negative 8. Multiplication here. 25 plus 9 times negative 8. 25 plus a negative 72. And 25 plus a negative 72 is negative 47. So my next term would be negative 47. Or my 10th term, sorry. Find the 66th term of the sequence. Negative 6, negative 4, negative 2, 0. I notice I'm adding 2 every time, but I'm not going to sit here to get to the 66th term. My first term is negative 6. They're looking for the 66. The common difference we figured out was 2, because we're adding 2. And we're technically looking for a 66. My formula written right up top there. A 66 is going to equal my first term, plus the number of terms minus 1 times my difference of 2. Order of operations, clean up the parentheses. 65 times 2 is 130. Negative 60 plus 130 is 124. So my 66th term is 124. Pause the video, try the last one by yourself, and then come back. A1 is 3, n is 88. My common difference is 5. And we're looking for the 88th term. So let's go. an equals a1 plus n minus 1 times d. First term is 3 plus 88 minus 1 times 5. 3 plus 87 times 5. 87 times 5 is 435. Plus 3 gets me 438. So my 88th term in the sequence is 438. Alright, let us know if you have any questions.